First, let me explain, this isn't a bunker. This is, but make a good bunker. This is a root cellar. But I'm working on that, trying to get it all closed up before it gets so cold that I can't move dirt. But this is a good place to do a video because the wind doesn't get down here. I had noticed, well, I think it was yesterday they started this, the media has been referring to Harris and Biden as the president and vice president-elect. Well, it's cute, but it isn't really true. There's a lot more goes into that. They're kind of jumping the gun on this, but I think people really don't understand how this whole system works with the Electoral College and all this. But this is far from being a done deal. There's quite a long time here before they would actually be certified as the vice president and president-elect. The media just tends to gloss over this. It isn't just you vote and this is what, and they're still counting votes in several places. So it really isn't relevant. But evidently they were making speeches, and all this stuff. I didn't actually watch any of their speeches because it really is no point in it, because nothing they have to say is really relevant at this point. They can say whatever they want, but it really doesn't matter. Because now after this goes on for a while, if they ever get this settled with the votes, but there's going to be all kinds of court cases and litigation. This will go on for quite some time. But if they actually ever get to the point of being certified as the vice president and president-elect, okay, there's still a big gap from that point until the time that they're actually sworn in. Okay, this is a real chancy deal. I was always trying to figure out what the hell, because Biden, like I say, is really not relevant. He's just a Trojan horse to get Harris in there. I was thinking Harris, but I'm kind of changing my opinion on that a little. She's the logical choice, and once they're sworn in, she would be the legal choice. But until they're actually sworn in, there's this really risky period of time here. If something should happen to Biden, at that point, once they're considered the elect, if something happens to him, it doesn't necessarily move her into the top position. Actually, then what happens is the Democratic National Committee could choose somebody, anybody. They could choose Harris, but it doesn't have to be Harris. It can be anybody that they choose to put in there. Now, at that point, the logical thing would be Bernie. Bernie couldn't possibly get in on his own, but once they've got that slot locked down, they could stick Bernie in there. But at the same time, he's a bit of a pill to swallow. But even worse, but they could do that very easily. But I keep looking and thinking, Hillary thinks this is old to her, this position. And the DNC is kind of locked into this Hillary thing. So there's always that potential. She's lurking in the woods. I mean, she managed to get herself appointed as an elector. But here's the thing, like when you vote, you're not really voting for a president, you're voting for an elector. Now these electors, at that point, they're actually, there's a point in time here where they will actually be voting who is the president. They're supposed to reflect the vote of the people, but not necessarily so. There have been many cases where the electors can actually go against the will of the people. And not only that, the state legislatures can actually overrule the electors and just say, no, we ain't going with that, we're going to put somebody else in. We're going to put a different elector in, get rid of the elector that you have. Because faithless electors, there's really no big thing prohibiting them from voting whatever the way they want to, because they get a little fine, a slap on the fingers. Maybe they won't be allowed to be an elector again. No big deal. But if they have a little slant on this, they can go against whatever the public tells them. They don't have to go with what they say. And the same with the state legislature. Doesn't really have to go with what they say. The people voting are really a long way back in this, have very little say in this. It really doesn't matter what they say. These things are kind of worked out ahead of time. The voting gives you the illusion of having some control over this, but you really don't. So I'm thinking, okay, this could be the return of the swamp creature. Hillary could get back in there. It's very possible. Because, like Biden, like I say, this is if something happens to Biden in the meantime. There's tons of ways this could go bad for him. But knowing that this whole thing that, like I say, if something happens to him, that the DNC can actually just appoint somebody without nobody else nothing to say in this. This is up to them. They can pick somebody. If I was him, I would really tread carefully. I wouldn't go down a set of stairs in front of Hillary, that's for sure, because even Harris is a little spooky. I wouldn't want, he's got to be looking over his shoulder all the time. But there's things about him that they could kick him out of there so easily. And the good thing now with this whole laptop of his kid, they could easily do this, but do it in such a way as to blame it on the Republicans. That it wasn't their fault, that those dirty Republicans got rid of Biden. So that could easily happen. It's a sort of a bait and switch here deal where, that was the whole idea with Bernie with Biden. He's like, a stupid, bumbling, senile, doddering, but he appears to be harmless. So people were willing to vote for him just to get rid of Trump. But God only knows what you're going to get after that. Because, like I say, he's really not relevant. I have no concerns about him whatsoever. He's incompetent, actually. And they know that. They knew that. Everybody knew that going in. But the idea that until he's actually sworn in, you have that gap in time there where they could switch him out and switch in Hillary. They could do Bernie, but they're really, it's a hard pill to swallow. Well, Hillary is too, but she doesn't think so. But for that little period of time in there, well, it's not little, it's like a month, they could make that switch, and there ain't a darn thing you could do about it. But it's an interesting, but it reminds me like on all these monster movies where, oh man, they struggle and they finally kill the beast, and the beast, then the last scene, you see the beast opens his eyes, ain't quite dead, and that's kind of like Hillary. She's going to come back. She ain't quite dead. You got to learn, when you do that. You kill him completely stone dead. They had her on all kinds of stuff that they should have prosecuted her on. But if, oh no, we got her down, we'll leave her alone. She's gonna come back. You don't just knock them down and then walk away and turn your back on them. Those creatures always come back. It's just how it works. So I think she's lurking. You kind of tend to forget about her while she makes a little squawk now and again, but then when she got to be an elector, I started thinking, and then she keeps saying, oh, I was born to be president, oh, she could take care of this pandemic, she could do, every time she says something, I keep thinking, okay, there's some angle she's got going there. Can you imagine? So if she snuck in, if they got Biden out of there, which, like I say, easy, no problem. And if they snuck Hillary in, and it would be possible by her, kind of buttering up, though, because her main thing would be Bernie. Her main problem would be Bernie. Because they screwed him over so many times, and here was an opportunity that he could maybe get in, and maybe, but he's a tough one to swallow. But she burned him so bad so many times, there's not good feelings between that bunch. So it'd be an interesting thing. It'd be interesting to know what they got scheme going. But I'm sure Hillary's just licking her chops, thinking, if something was to happen, and you don't want to get in between Hillary and some position of power that she wants. That's the last place you want to be. So something could easily happen to him. I wouldn't take a beverage from Hillary. I wouldn't walk in front of her going down the steps. I would just keep a long ways away from her. But it's interesting. I look at this, it's more as like a whodunit kind of deal. I'm really not that invested in the politics of the thing. But it's a mystery to kind of fiddle with. And I think Hillary's scheming. Bernie for one thing, they don't want to lose, they're having trouble with the Senate right now. If they don't get control of the Senate, they're just screwed anyway. It doesn't matter who the president it is, they can make all the noise they want. They aren't going to get any, they can't do any real damage, So they're going to throw everything. There's some that are going to be recounts, or actually they're going to have to completely do a runoff on them because it's that close. So I'm sure they're throwing money at this kind of a situation. Because it's all money. I mean, but if they can get, they need control of the Senate. If they don't have control of the Senate, this whole presidency thing doesn't do them any good. I mean, you're limited to what you can do. And if you push it too far, you're out of there too. You could easily be impeached. So they're really going to throw money at these Senate races. There's a lot of playing going on. It's amazing how much money gets spent on this political nonsense that really doesn't amount to much. But they spend a ton of money on it that could be much better spent. But it'll be interesting to see, coming up, if he gets to the point where he's a president-elect, that'll be interesting. But like I say, there's a long way to go before that. Before he can call himself that, they can act that way, they can do whatever they want. But this whole election thing is still really up in the air, and there's too much shady stuff that went on. It's kind of hard to. But they're saying, they're thinking, okay, if we just we got it. Who's going to dispute it? People are patting themselves on the back, thinking this is a done deal, but long way to go yet. But I was just thinking that from the time that he gets actually certified as the president-elect, boy, he's got to watch his back. Because I think something's going to go down. Because I can't see him actually At first I was thinking, oh, maybe he could be president for like 6 months, but I don't think they're going to chance it. Because they're going to try to run him like a puppet, but it isn't really going to work. I think their best move in that time frame is to do that switch, get him the hell out of there. And I think Harris is tickled enough to be vice president, and she's so hated that I don't think she could try to pull a presidential deal off. She'd just be way overhead. She's way overhead on vice president, but the presidential deal, that'd be a little harder. But Hillary thinks, like you said, she was born to do this. So you could actually end up with Hillary as president and Harris as vice president. Can you imagine this? The cackling. Oh, God. But it's, we'll see. We'll see. But I think there's an opportunity in there that they could jump at. That if they were smart, they would jump at. Because you're taking a big chance if you actually let Biden get in there. I mean, you can try to control him, but he's kind of, unpredictable. I mean, he can say or do anything. And to have him dealing with other governments and stuff, really risky deal. I mean, he could get us into a war very easily, because he likes that. He loves wars. He's really into that whole thing. So we could really be ratcheting all of our foreign problems up. And it's not like he's going to cure any of our domestic problems. He's going to have his hands full because the rioting and the looting, this isn't going to quit. They just got started. If they actually let Bernie in there, might cool them down a little bit. But there's nothing that's going to actually make that stop without a lot of force being used. And I don't think he's willing to use the force. Not in this country. He'd throw all kinds of force overseas, but he ain't going to do it here. But Hillary is another matter. She's a bloodthirsty, vicious animal. I think she would put a stop. But oh my God, it's a terrifying thought. But it's a possibility that I'm sure they're looking at. Because all they got to do is say, yeah. Oh, I mean, he could get the coronavirus, or he could have a stroke, or he could fall down the stairs. There's a lot that could happen with him. But even the whole idea with his kid and the laptop and the kickbacks and all that stuff, he's up to his neck in that. They kind of hushed it up for now. But all they have to do is let this slide, let it slip out. What was really going on, he's screwed. He's out of there. That's when they slip in that ringer. And I really got, because they were kind of backing themselves up a little, saying, well, we really don't dare to put any people in our cabinet out of the Senate because we need those senators. It's risky to pull them out. They're in tough shape now. Because if they don't have a majority, like I say, they're kind of screwed. It's a little chess game going on here. But I just know Hillary is scheming. Because all of them, the real schemers and troublemakers from way back in the Bill Clinton years, they're still around. They don't seem to die off. I saw Carville giving a little talk the other day again. My God, that man is nothing but a skeleton. But he's itching to get in there again. And if he could start pushing Hillary, they're lurking. They're laid in wait. But it'll be interesting. But I mean, because that's, Hillary is a vengeful animal. And she would love, if she could get revenge on Trump for stealing her election, she would do anything to do that. But like I say, even with these Democrats, the way it is now, when people say, oh, the integrity of the election, these Democrats are capable of doing absolutely anything to get power. A little bit of cheating is nothing to them. I think there's a scheme afoot. I think there's going to be a little switch made in there. But my fear is it's going to be Hillary. To me, it's the way things look like they're laying out. But I don't know, because Hillary is, well, really, she is the most hated woman in the country, though Harris is running a close second. Hillary just beat her out by a little bit. And you get both of those people in office? Oh, God. Be like cackling in the chicken coop. It'd be a horrible mess. But it's a possibility. As weird as it, you keep thinking Hillary's gone, but like I tell you, it's always, them monsters don't die that easily. There's always a sequel, and this might be the sequel we got coming up. So, it's interesting, but like I said, this is a little ways away. I mean, they got to battle out all this other stuff about the election fraud first. That's going to be drug out, carried on for quite some time. But they're throwing everything they can at it. Right now, my main concern would be to watch the Senate race. They're going to throw tons of money at these reruns, but if you can pull that out, as long as the Republicans keep control of the Senate, you got a certain amount of, then these Democrats can do their crazy swap, and it isn't really going to matter much. But man, the chance of Biden actually, people are worried, oh, is he going to run his full term? Oh, God, if he could stay in there, if he could manage to get in, actually get sworn in, that'll be one thing. But I don't know that it can go that far, because then you got to deal with Harris. Because Harris would automatically be president, and then they got to bring in a vice president, who that's going to be. And I was thinking, that AOC, she kind of mouthing that, but really, I think she wants to kind of stay where she is. She can flap her gums all she wants. I don't know that she keeps, she's hitting that. Well, if the people called on her to take a more important position, but I don't think she'd want to play second fiddle to Harris, and you can't swap them. And I can't see the Democrats replacing Biden with AOC. I mean, that's a hell of a stretch. The Democrats are all on the outs with each other the way it is. People think, Bernie's kind of a nice, goofy guy. They could maybe try to put Bernie in there, but I don't think the rest of the country would stand that for a minute. I don't see it. He's, because, you got Biden in there who's pretending not to be radical, and he isn't really radical. He's just wishy-washy, just an old politician. But he's cover for the radicals. But I don't know if you try to swap him out for a real radical at the last minute. I could see where he think it would be, from his point of view, yeah, it'd be fair, because they keep robbing him of this, Bernie should have had a chance of running. It should have been him running against Trump, but they knew they would have no chance. So they put this ringer in here, Biden, just to get it. They just want to get it. Then they'll decide how to handle this. But there's that period of time in there. But man, Biden better watch his back. But even, if they don't outright kill him off, or just say, oh, the dementia got the better of him, or they get him on all this sneaky stuff with Ukraine and China. I mean, they could easily. They've got the evidence on him. I'm sure the Democrats have everything they need to get rid of him. All they have to do is turn it over, and he's gone. So he's walking on shaky ground. But there is that particular time where he's really vulnerable. Because I don't think even the Democrats, well, obviously when they were doing this election, when they were first nominating people, there was no way Harris was going to get in to run as president. They completely rejected her. So I don't think they want to all of a sudden say, oh yeah, yep, she can have the job. Something happens to Biden, he's got the job. They're going to bring in somebody else. And to me, the only logical choice would be Bernie, if they're thinking, doing the right thing, but Hillary, if they want to be really vicious and vengeful, which they really want to be, they're already making their enemies list of people who were against them. All these Republicans who said a bad word, their name's going down, they're getting a lump of coal.